Not a problem at all. It's all, the link is on the website, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for coming. This is our fourth class from Robin Koenig, and I am just so grateful to have her with us. So Robin, I am going to have you take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathy. And I'm excited too, because I feel like every week I probably say this, this is my favorite topic, but I do really love talking about brand. So that's what we're going to be sharing today. And let me pull up my screen here. Okay. There we go. Is that showing up for y'all? Perfect. Okay, so this is workshop number 4. This is really meant to help businesses, resurge, refocus, retool, whatever it is that you need to be doing right now. I just want to give you as many options and resources and insights as possible. So today we're talking all about brand. So here we go. So this is probably one of the number one questions that I get. What's the difference between brand and marketing? And this is not meant to be a masterclass on that, but I like to try and drill it down to some really basic understandings. The brand is a strategic side of your business, which is connected to some of the things that we've already talked about, your strategic direction and your financial roadmap. The brand sits on that strategic side of your business. Marketing is the tactical action, which is connected to your brand. And so one of the things that, we do differently when I'm working with a client is we focus on marketing last. We've really got to tackle the brand before we start doing the tactical side of the business. And so, marketing is that promotion, selling, identifying, and engaging with your high probability prospects. But if you don't know who they are and you don't know how you're perceived, then you're basically pouring money for marketing into an abyss. So this is where a lot of businesses do fall short and why they spend time and money on marketing with very little to show for it. And so the question I like to say is, how well have you identified your target market and how do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? That's the key question. So just to kind of, expand on the whole definition things, because I do love talking about words. So the common definition for brand is a type of product. It's manufactured by a particular company under a particular name. It can be a term, a design, a symbol, or any feature that defines a seller's goods or services as distinct from somebody else. That's, pull out my brand a textbook, right, from college. That's your brand 101 definition. The way that we at Level 6 like to define it is who you help, what you help them do, and why your help, this is probably not worded correctly, sorry, why your help for them is, or how it's perceived in the marketplace. Sorry, this is completely written wrong. Let me explain. This is the perception of who you help, what you help them do, and why, as perceived by your ideal client in the marketplace. It literally is their interpretation and their perception. That is your brand. And as hard as we all try to say, no, my brand is this, my brand is that, if we don't understand how it's being perceived, then we probably will not attract the clients that we want or the customers that we want to our business, right? We really need to understand that. So it's tangible. It can also be intangible. It's intentional, but it can also be unintentional. So it gets kind of tricky, right? It really does get kind of tricky. And so I want to give you some ways and some tools to kind of start to think about it differently. And if you're in a place now where you've said, I thought my brand was this, but now I'm really starting to see it differently, or the market's changed, my ideal client's changed, who I'm serving and how I'm doing that has changed, then here's the opportunity to just kind of go back and start to refresh it. So when I'm working with a client, what I really like to do is break it down to the simplest, most like the smallest nugget possible to really figure something out. And one of the things that I like to do is figure out what really is a brand. And there's two things to consider. And if you've read the E-Myth before, this will probably sound very familiar, but it is a resource that I just go to very regularly because I believe in the philosophies that they teach. A brand, there's two pieces of a brand. There's the thing that you're identifying with, that's a commodity, right? What you're selling, the good, the service, what it is that you're actually delivering, the tangible thing. That's the commodity. The actual product that you're delivering, that your brand is really defined around, is a feeling. And this is what's going to bring you to life in a unique way that is different from everybody else. What's the feeling that you're providing to a client, a customer, a patient that is different than everybody else? And it's not the thing that you're actually delivering. So for example, Kathy, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if we were to say there's a commodity that the chamber provides and there's a feeling, that's the product that the chamber provides, right? Anybody can provide membership to a community of people, right? That's the thing, the commodity. The feeling that the chamber provides is a sense of inclusion, a sense of belonging, a sense of support, right? I'm just kind of throwing my own ideas out there as far as the brand. The product that the chamber delivers is that feeling, which is way more and more valuable and more worthwhile than the membership to the organization. Would you agree with that, or do you have any insights on that? I see clapping. So
I totally agree with that. Thank you. Yes.
yeah. So if we start to wrap our brain around that, right, it actually gets even more exciting, right? I want to do brand work when I start thinking about a feeling, a product that I'm going to deliver to people versus the actual thing, the widget, right? So I've shown this before, and this is, again, I just kind of keep this as a consistency in making sure that we're kind of seeing where we're going when we're talking about all these different parts of our business. And so, like I mentioned earlier, we've stayed on this right side of the wheel. And Craig, this might be new for you, but this right side of the wheel and these specific segments of the business, we're on the brand now, number 4. We're really building up towards getting to that tactical side on the left. Okay. And so in that journey and going from a level 1 maturity, which is that startup, to a level 5, which is, sellability and do whatever you want with your business down the road, that's the journey that we're taking. And so when we talk about brand, what that looks like is these 5 different levels. And so from a brand perspective, level 1 maturity, again, maybe getting started or going back to start, is really saying, well, our target market is anyone who needs what we have. That's the starting point, right? You're at the starting gate here of developing your brand. And the feeling is that, or the belief is that, we are what anybody needs. And that's a lot of businesses. Quite honestly, it's 95% of small businesses that define themselves as, whoever it is that needs what I have, that's my target market. That tells me that your ideal client and brand message probably isn't very clear. But once you're able to get that into clarity, you can move into that next level, which is a level 2. Okay. So getting a little bit more clarity, a little bit more identity around your ideal client puts you into level 2 that says, we know exactly who our customers are, where to find them, and when. That's really when you start to gain some stability in your business around your brand. Okay. And from there, what you can do is you get your brand message and your value proposition that's very specific to your ideal client, to then move into the next level of maturity, which is to give you some sustainability. And sustainability in your brand is having your brand message build rapport and speaking directly to a target audience. So it's not just knowing who they are and where they are, but building rapport and speaking to them so that they're really resonating with that and they feel that connection with you. And so from there, to move into a scalability, we're going to start to look at, what does that client life cycle look like and how is it different, right? Bringing them through the journey or that client experience, which is your brand as perceived by them. From there, then you get to move into a level 4 maturity, which is really about giving some breadth to the long term here, scalability, where your people and the process that you provide has a unique value that nobody else is already putting out there. Okay, again, that's experiential, and you have a defined range of services and products with those people in mind, with your ideal clients in mind. It's no longer anybody who needs what you have wherever they are. It's very specific, and you have products that are going to speak to them. And then that last level, that level 5, is again, putting yourself all the way out there where your business is at a place where you can do whatever you want with it from a brand perspective. That look and feel is aligned across everything. Your brand message, it's specific to your ideal client. It's consistent across all touch points, social media, speaking engagements, whatever it is. And the end result is you're actively attracting your ideal client to you. Okay, so this is not an overnight process, nor do I want you to think that this is easy. But what I want to do is I want to kind of help you get to a place where there's a couple of things you can work on to start to really reflect and understand this, to then put it into the tactical mode on the other side of the wheel, because this actually helps you also understand, well, what kind of people do I need in my business? What do I need my delivery processes to look like, my sales process, and then my marketing? Like this, we've already got the house foundation built, but this is giving some really specific structure. This is like the framing part of your house. Okay, we're not going to decorate it yet. That's down the road, but we want to frame it up, and we want to make sure that it sits solidly on that foundation that you've already set. Okay. So how do you do this? How do you improve your brand maturity? So that first step, that level 1, is identifying your ideal client. And we're going to go into kind of how to do this, but the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why they buy. And so another way that you can look at this is, why will your ideal client want you to solve their problem or invest in you or your services or your business? Like, this really comes down to now asking the question of, what is the value that you're providing that they're going to be willing to invest in? And I really like the word investment, because it's more than just the transaction piece, right? We go back to what we were talking about. It's a feeling versus the commodity. There's plenty of transactional businesses out there, but if you want to improve brand maturity and really set that, the structure and the foundation for the long term of your business, then you want to help people understand that this investment is worth it, because every business is meant to solve a problem. And we need to understand what those pain points are for our clients and our customers in order to show them that we have a solution. This is your powerful messaging. So this is going to get a little nitty gritty. And if after this presentation, you want some of these tools, please just send me a message or text me. I'm happy to send these, because I'm going to kind of go through them fairly quickly. And it might be a little like, oh my gosh, but these are meant to give you some tangible things to actually play with, right? I like playing around with ways that I can improve my business. And sometimes it just takes a little time. And so the way that I work with clients, and again, this is one way to do it, this is not the ultimate way, is to start with developing this who, what, why, or what we call our powerful messaging. And so I'm going to kind of share how this works, and then I'm going to give you an example. Okay. So, and you'll see on the left-hand side, the left side is kind of understanding like what it is that you're filling in the blanks. And then the right side is the language that we associate with it, to just start to, this isn't like developing a campaign. This is literally just starting to write this out for yourself so you can get in tune with the identity of your brand. Now, you might use this at some point for messaging. Like, you might be like, that's an awesome tagline, or this is how I want to, put this on my website. Cool. But this is, again, step 1. It's like a reflection, starting, getting that ball rolling. So the who part of it, the language is, so I'll go with what it is and then the language. So the who is, who you're helping, the industry, again, getting kind of specific in the industry, location, where you're serving somebody. The problem is, what are they struggling with? And then you can kind of start to narrow that down. Like, what's the problem they're struggling with. It might be struggling to do something, struggling to improve something. Like you can really expand on that with multiple things. And then what's the benefit? What is it that they really want to gain out of this, right? There's a problem they're struggling with. Well, what do they want to do differently? What's the benefit that they can receive by changing that and avoiding the pain? That is so key to this. And, we'll talk about that in a moment too, but you want to help them understand the benefits they can get and what's the pain that they don't have to go through anymore by working with you or by buying your product. So I want to give you this example. Oops. There we go. Okay. I wish I could move my cursor here. Give me 1 second here. I feel like I wish I could just move my little people faces here because it gets in my way. No, it doesn't. Okay. If I miss a word, I might call on you guys to read the screen because I can't move my little people faces out of the way of my screen. So if I were to read this aloud, and again, we're filling in the blanks here, this is what it would sound like. So we help, and this is totally just an example, we help small business owners in residential landscaping companies in Georgetown, Texas, who are struggling with a lack of organization and overwhelm, get clear on where their business is going and how to plan, I think that's what it says, and plan for how to get there and put the right people and processes in place so they can start spending time working on the business without having to figure it all out on their own. I might have missed a couple words because I can't read it. So do you see how what we are doing now is we're starting to frame up an understanding of who they are, where they are, what they do and what they need, and what we can do to help solve their problem. That's a powerful message that goes beyond, hey, we're a residential landscaping company and we improve your yard. Okay. This goes deeper than that. And like I mentioned before, and this is known to be very true, that as far as changing habits, right, which is really about helping people figure out what they need and where they want to invest, people will do more to avoid pain than to gain a reward. And that's why we focus on that pain piece too. It's not to say that there isn't a benefit, but they will do more to avoid pain. And then there's a benefit as well, right? It's like the and to it. So from there, actually, let me do this real quick. Are there any questions or thoughts around this idea of creating a powerful message? Because I want to give you guys a chance to talk about it or ask questions. Have you seen this before? What's your thought?
I had a question. We're kind of like split between luxury estates and the corporate side. So we're almost thinking about breaking the company into two different pieces. But, branding, we should do branding like it's almost like two different brands. How would you handle that?
That's a great question. What I would suggest is first seeing if there are any commonalities between the ideal clients. So maybe at surface level, because we obviously haven't gone deep into that yet, but like maybe at surface level, they do seem different, but there might be some commonalities as to what they're struggling with. So you could approach it where you're connecting some dots to be able to share a broader message that, say, on a website or something that can help bridge the gap to make it clear that, hey, you've got one identity, like this is who you are and who you serve. But what you can do is you can develop more than one powerful message. You could develop two separate messages because you might be, say, doing a specific campaign or wanting to do some outreach to one of the ideal clients that really hits home with them. And you can change it up. You can have two separate powerful messages that help you speak to those individual client bases, depending on where you are. Could be, a basic conversation. It could be a social media platform. It could be something. So you could go both directions, and without having kind of dug into the business a little bit further, it'd be hard to say, but it's possible to do both. But what I would say is, I would start with looking at the ideal clients and literally putting them side by side, even doing this exercise to see what comes up. Are they struggling with the same thing? Are they looking to change the same kinds of things? And what are their pain points? So that could get kind of fun. And that's why this is, I actually have this in an Excel spreadsheet, because you can play around with it and you can plug in some different things and see how it sounds, and you read it aloud, and then you kind of go, I don't know about that. Does that work for me? And then the second piece, which we're going to go into, might actually tell you an even better story.
Does your do your services cost like a lot? Because we're only a small, like 5-person company.
That's a relative question, I would say. But I'm happy to talk with you more about it. If
Okay.
again, if I know more about what it is that you're looking to do, and what support you need, then we can certainly talk about that. But the idea of a lot or expensive is kind of a relative term, right?
It is.
Yeah. But give me a call, shoot me a message. We'll see what's going on.
I put my info in the chat.
Awesome. Great. I'll grab that at the end of it, because Kathy, I can't see the screen right now.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll shut up now.
Oh, all good. This is meant to be a conversation. I talk for a living, so I really like sometimes when people respond.
I have actually worked with companies who do multiple things under the same roof. And for instance, one of my clients was an attorney she was a family law attorney. So she did divorces and she did child custody cases, etc. But then she also did mediation, because sometimes divorces would not necessarily have to go to court if they went to mediation. So she also became a mediator that could facilitate those kinds of discussions. So we actually developed 2 different websites, one for her family law and then one for the mediation that she did, because the messages were overlapping in the fact that it was her that was providing the service, but they were very different in terms of where you were going. If people went to mediation, it was many times because they were willing to listen and accept what the mediator said. If they went to divorce, many times it was because they could not accept, they had to have a judge tell them because they could not accept it, they couldn't work it out. And then another client I had for 25 years, they actually were an interior design firm, but they did 3 very, very different things. They designed stores, they designed office buildings, and they designed hotels. Very different, but overlapping because it was all under one roof. So we actually had marketing plans. I had created and actually worked with marketing plans for each one of those divisions that they were doing.
Yeah. And again, that's such a valid point, Carolyn, because it's not to say that you can't have multiple products and services and lines of service. It's really understanding who needs it and how you're speaking to them. But you could have multiple things that you do within your business, right? That you offer, the different services and the product lines, but it's the type of people that need it, and they might need more than one of the things that you offer, right? Like you were saying, or at different times, depending on what they're looking for, right? What's the solution that they need at that point in time? Maybe at one part in their journey, use a business client example for me, a small business owner, they might need very specific resources and consulting that I'm going to guide them through to help get them, rebranded, for example. But then maybe they're doing so well, and then another point in time, they actually need my help when it comes to their people, their team engagement, their leadership support. Those are all different kinds of services that I provide, consulting and coaching. but the ideal client is still pretty well defined under the same umbrella. Yeah, those are all great questions, great input. So thank you for sharing that. So this is like the first step, right? This is putting together the powerful messaging and really starting to understand the ideal client and what it is that you're doing to support them. The second piece is what we call the RATC, or the rapport and trust conversations. And so the rapport is really about giving first to the client, right? That's kind of setting the stage for how you're going to work together. It's giving. You're going to give to that client first, or that customer, or that patient. And then the second piece is the trust, right? Trust is really developed by knowing, I say their stuff, like knowing what they're about, what's going on with them, and understanding their fears, their frustrations, their challenges, and then asking them to continue to tell you more, digging deeper and wanting to know more so you can help them solve their problem even better. Okay, so we have a framework that we use, which is really to help collect a lot of this information, which is really an interesting process. It's not like sending out a survey and being like, tell me, fill in the blanks of your fears, frustrations, and challenges so we can develop rapport and trust. Like it's about really listening to your customers or your clients, and then being able to translate it to an understanding that helps you provide a better solution for them. So what it looks like, keep pressing the wrong button there, is the second part of your powerful messaging, which is the RATC. Okay. So where it starts is talking about the ideal client. And again, there's a language associated with it. And so I like to use the language of what I've found. And this is where you're talking knowledgeably, because you've just done your powerful messaging, talking knowledgeably about your ideal client. What I found is that most, residential landscaping companies in Georgetown, Texas, are challenged by this. They're frustrated with this. And if it's not resolved soon, they fear this. Right now, we're really starting to tell more of a story, and we are saying, we understand. We've heard, we've listened, we understand. And all they really need right now is, and starting to throw some ideas out there, because there's a future that they want to develop so they can start working towards whatever it is, right? Now we've kind of painted this picture of understanding, and then we go into, but I also know that there's kind of what we call a false problem. And the problem is that they think whatever it is that you believe that they think, and the solution that they keep doing, which is really what's keeping them stuck, right? A false solution is they keep doing this, or they keep doing this. But the real problem is, and then we can define it. It's like we've looked really hard, and now it's starting to come to light. And now this is where we get to kind of, bring it all home, is our solution is this. The reality is that things aren't going to get better until they, and whatever they want to, whatever we're saying a solution is for change. And here's 3 different things that they could do. That's what we call the RATC framework. And so this is going to kind of be a little lengthy as I read through it, but I want to kind of give you a picture. And I think I have one here that I'm going to use. So I think the one I have here is the same one as on your screen. So I'm going to be able to read it better. Okay, so so this is what it would sound like. Again, just to give you an example, because I'm like a visual, audible learner. Like I want to kind of hear and see it put together. So this is kind of what it would sound like. Okay, so what I've found is that most residential landscaping companies are challenged by finding customers who can afford their services and are ready to buy. They're frustrated with people asking for quotes, but no one's willing to spend any money right now, and they're spending hours away from home. So they're spending hours away from home, and their family's starting to get upset. If it's not resolved soon, they fear that their business won't be able to sustain this for much longer, and they're gonna lose their shirt. They're gonna, not be successful. What they need right now is a simple approach that will allow them to find just 1 or 2 more customers a month. so they can start working towards a marketing system that will generate a consistent stream of high quality leads and a nurturing system that allows them to spend time speaking with prospects that are ready to buy. The problem is they think that they need to provide estimates to everyone who asks because it's a numbers game. So they keep spending hours on the road, doing walkthroughs, creating bids, and waiting around for the phone to ring, and it never does. But the real problem is they think that the customers will go somewhere else if they don't provide an estimate right away, so they jump every time. The reality is things are not going to get better until they understand that landscaping services are in high demand right now because the area is growing like crazy and the business needs to have a system in place that automatically captures the leads, provides the information that the prospects about the prospects until they're ready to buy, and that they have a trigger that tells them when they're ready so they can go do the estimate, take a deposit, and get started right away. So their options are keep doing what they're doing and throwing their time away on these tire kickers. Second option is hire a virtual assistant, take all the calls and follow up consistently. Or option 3 is work with us. See our system for lead capture, nurturing engagement, engagement that identifies, captures, and serves the prospects until they're ready. And it comes with a job management platform so you can monitor all the work from start to finish. Now, I know that was a lot, and I'm sorry for the fumbling around as I'm reading off my notes. But what I wanted to do was show you that this kind of understanding versus the 95% that just believe that their customers or anybody that needs their services or the product, right, the commodity, the thing, this goes up much further. And the reason why is this is something you can use in a conversation, right? When somebody starts talking to you about what it is that you do, you know, what I found is, and you start to talk about it and you start to show that you understand and you start to talk about the realities that are true and what it is that you can do to help them. That's the rapport and the trust conversation. It can live on your website. It can live in a campaign. It can really live anywhere, but this is building a framework that, to Craig's question before, you can plug and play with your ideal clients and your understandings like anytime you need to. The more you learn about them, the more you can start to develop this understanding, this identity for your brand. So I'm going to pause for a second. What are your thoughts or questions or insights in regards to this second piece of the framework? Anybody thinking about giving it a shot? I'm not saying right now. I'm saying in general. Is this something that starts to make you think differently in regards to your brand? Just curious.
I have a question. What if the real problem was that they kept being underbid, or the real problem was that they weren't competitive enough in their bidding? So that it,
Yeah, those are great things. And so what I like to do is that the problem, or go back to what we talked about from the very beginning, thoughts, feelings, and actions. What is it that they believe? Right? If they're constantly being underbid, right? I would definitely put that into a frustration, a challenge, and maybe it's part of a false problem, right? That they're not getting clients because they're constantly underbid. But the real problem is they don't understand their true value.
yeah, exactly. So that can also, well, certainly this is a problem too, in that, you know, they're trying to do too many things up front and not getting enough return on investment with getting actual clients in the door.
Yeah.
But
the real problem is they don't have a good time, you know, maybe they don't have a good time management solution. Maybe they don't have a good way to manage their clients. And so the solution, the reality is things aren't going to get better until they start to, you know, manage their client load better. Provide better service by managing their client load. Like, I'm just throwing examples, right?
yeah. or they, you know, or maybe they have a bad reputation, or their references aren't, you know, of value to the people that are trying to hire them. I mean, there could be any other number of scenarios here too.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that, because when I do this, I literally have multiple, let's see, it would be rows. I have to think columns, rows. I expand out across because I might come up with 5 different frustrations, right? So what you can do, because again, I like love spreadsheets. And so you can create this spreadsheet where you could have, you know, option 1, option 2, option 3, and expand. It could be the exact same ideal client, right? We'll use residential landscaping as the example. But when you identify, you know, challenge 1, frustration 1, and fear 1, it might have very different information underneath it that shows you a false problem or false solution, or, you know, all the pieces of the puzzle. But then you pop in another frustration or another fear, and it could change what's going on and the kind of solution that you can provide. And it's really cool to be able to do that, expand out and do it multiple times, because that's only expanding your depth of knowledge and your ability to connect with people. Because sometimes we don't know that, you know, they might identify one particular thing, and right off the top of your head, as we're doing this and as you're getting like really comfortable and confident in this powerful messaging for your business, it just comes up like that, and you're able to respond to it because you know how all those dots are connected. Right? So literally, like I always say, put more on this page and keep going with it, because it's like you're doing your research. And every time I work with a client, believe me, I get more and more research to fill in these blanks and understand another challenge, another frustration, another way that I could help approach a solution for them based on what I'm understanding to be true. Does that help? Yeah. And I love that, because again, it's like, we don't need to put ourselves into a box to say there's only one challenge and one fear and one solution. You know, it's like, this could literally keep evolving as we know more. And also things change, you know? And the reason why I have found what I found is, no, just kidding. The reason why this has become so helpful in this current situation is there's a lot of businesses now that have new challenges and new frustrations, right? New problems, new solutions in this current climate. So you don't have to scrap everything you've ever done for your business and your brand, but going back to this and saying, well, what's going on now? What are my customers and clients currently struggling with now that was different, you know, 9 months ago? It's changed. So this could actually be almost like, I want to say simple, but one really good helpful step in redefining your brand understanding to come up with a different voice that helps you feel like now you're really in tune with people where they are now. You know, that's one of the principles of my coaching work: meet people where they are. You know, and for any business right now, meet your clients, meet your customers where they are now. You know, the past is, you know, there's a great quote that is, you know, the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. And I think that's very true when it comes to business too, right? We've got to be able to move forward. So, you know, my encouragement, my invitation is give it a shot and see what comes up as you start to plug and play on this powerful messaging in the RATC framework. Okay. So I want to bring this forward too, because there's a whole principle here that, again, really helpful in understanding brand. And a little bit of it is kind of about trying to conquer a fear when it comes to competition and differentiation. And it's this concept, and this is not my concept, so you can Google it, but it's red ocean versus blue ocean. And really what this is about is, you know, as business owners, sometimes we show up and we think, gosh, everybody does what I do, right? How do I make some noise? How do I get myself out there and visible in, you know, the landscape of hundreds of thousands of businesses, millions of businesses. I think it's 40 million small businesses in the US, right? How do we do that? Well, the red ocean versus the blue ocean. The red ocean is where your competitors are fighting, right? It represents blood in the water. And that's not where you want to be. You don't want to be in that red ocean because that's the battle. If you put yourself into the blue ocean and using your powerful messaging and using this, taking another step further, peel the layers of the onion away from understanding your customers more and more and more, that's where you start to get into the blue ocean. And that's where you start to become more visible and more accessible to your customers. And so there's some questions that you can ask yourself when you're trying to move towards that blue ocean. It's, what is it that you believe about what you do, right? I'm always going to come back to the foundation of what we talked about, which is our beliefs and our thoughts. It's relevant to our business as well. What is it that you believe that you do? And what is that big picture that when you start to paint it, and that the red ocean is full of people doing it one way, what's different? Or, you can judge it. You can say, well, what's wrong with what they're doing? And what is it that I'm going to do that's going to actually help people solve their problem differently? That big picture. Why is that important to your prospects? So give yourself that opportunity to move towards the blue ocean, but really communicate those beliefs powerfully in that messaging, right? That's what's going to help you stand out. Your beliefs are different because you understand things and you can see things differently. That's going to give you conviction to be a more powerful brand identity and a more powerful business that people are attracted to. So, this is kind of a roadmap that if you're looking to, either develop or redevelop your brand, I like to say that you really only need one simple truth to create a compelling brand identity, right? You don't have to show everybody that you solve every single problem in the world, but what is one simple truth that you can use, at least just even to get started in that powerful messaging? And I'll give you the example that, that I use a lot. The simple truth about my work is that being a sole proprietor doesn't mean doing business alone. It may not be true to everybody, but it is my truth because it's what I believe to be true. And that's a piece of my powerful messaging, but I stand by that with conviction. So I wanted to share that as an example, that one simple truth that is a belief that's compelling that you stand by. Then start to develop your powerful messaging. Do the who, what, why. Identify that, and then create the RATC framework, which is about building that rapport and trust connection or conversation. And then the last piece, which we didn't really talk too much about, but I want to make sure that there's this continuation of ideas. But another way that you're really going to swim in that blue ocean is your story, right? We all have a story. We all have a reason why we do what we do. And there's probably some really cool things that we sometimes forget to share. And the more that we do and we connect with people about why we do what we do and share our story and our journey to get there, it brings it full circle, right? It gives a special personalization to your brand because it's yours. It's your story, So doing the work on the messaging, getting the RATC together, but round it out with your story, that has a power to it. That's really important. So, put that into your roadmap as you're starting to redevelop or develop your brand, and then take action. It comes down to, at the end of the day, being intentional and showing up to serve your ideal clients and taking the action and being very intentional about it. Don't wait until it's perfect. Brand can be really difficult sometimes because we get caught up in the creation of it. But at the end of the day, take action and serve your ideal clients. You can always go back and, wash, rinse, repeat. Go back and redevelop your powerful messaging. What did you learn to be true now? What's different, than it was before COVID and now that you're in a different place? So these are steps that you can always go back. Just because you've done it once before does not mean you can't do it again. So I flushed this out again. So I know, Caroline, you weren't here last week, but you probably remember from the week before, These 6 things are really powerful in being intentional and actionable, in taking the next steps for you. So I added in some questions that you can ask yourself, or use as kind of your, accountability, or even though that's actually one of our words, but under focus, ask yourself, what is the most important thing to complete this week? That'll give you some focus. For accountability, what activities are needed? And the reason why accountability sometimes is also connected to other people knowing that, but accountability is just stating something that you're agreeing to do. And so if you identify what those activities are that you need to do, then put those on paper, and then at least you're accountable to yourself. You can always share it with somebody else as well. Measurement, how will I measure success? And how will I measure done? I'd actually really love that one, because sometimes we're like, well, I did that, but I don't know if it's finished. How will you measure that it's done? Consistency, how much time is needed for each action? The reason why I believe this to be so important in consistency is when we think it's going to take too much time, we all of a sudden don't have enough time. And then all of a sudden something's not as consistent as it used to be. We find a way to procrastinate. Resources, what support do I need to get it done? And commitment. Commitment is putting it down and saying you're going to do it and making it an action. So the suggestion here is time box your week. What's most important gets scheduled first. Okay, if you take that as an action, you're going to stay committed to what it is that's on your calendar. And if it's more than 3 big things, it's probably too much. Small things, okay, but 3 things, 3 big things, that's about as many as you're going to want, or else you start to get the traffic jam in your brain. So, this is just reiteration. If there's anything that I can do to help support you, please let me know. And I'll grab Craig's contact information as well, and just reach out to him. So, if you need a resource, you need an assessment, you need some support, whatever it is, please reach out to me. My contact information is hello@robinkoenig.com. And any questions, I'm happy to answer. That was like flying through some powerful brand messaging. But thank you for your attention.
That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Robin.
You are welcome. Anytime. And if you want me to shoot you the framework so you can play around with it as an Excel spreadsheet, I'm happy to do that as well.
All right. Thanks again, Robin. I will close this off.
Have a good Thanksgiving. See you all. Or I guess we have another one next week, don't we?
Not next week because of Thanksgiving.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So have a great Thanksgiving.